Good morning, everyone. How's everyone? How's everybody? Good morning. What's the status today? Are we really ready with PyCharm? Or I do need, do I need to do a little brief for that? Because yesterday I got the feedback that many students are still not. Yeah. So me and organizers discussed yesterday, and then you might have been forwarded with the appropriate installation link. So I guess your machine must be ready with PyCharm installed. So what's the feedback? Are we ready?
Good morning, sir. I think there are still few participants who want to learn more about the PyCharm installation.
Okay. So uh, is it the installation issue or something else?
So far, I know
Maybe I can.
they all say they have an installation problem. They already installed
Mhm.
but couldn't code well, something like that.
Okay. What could be done for such cases?
Maybe they can share their screen and let us know what kind of problem they are facing.
Okay, let's dedicate for maybe 10-15 minutes for starting this, so that as max as possible participants could benefit with this workshop, because today's session is, it is just the level up from the yesterday's session, because yesterday we were talking the basics of programming with Python, which is not really very difficult, not really very complicated. If you still can manage to join today, you can cope up, right? But the things which we are going to study today is real serious. It's real Python actually. So yeah, one by one, please share your screen, and then we can see that how this could be done. How I could support to the number of students. Yeah, and those who have issues. Yeah. Yeah. These last 10 minutes we would be dedicating for that, and then we would be continuing with the from the previous session yesterday. I left you with the introduction of function. I will just take a quick recap of the things which we have studied yesterday, and then I will start moving from the function onwards. Yeah. So there are really very important topics which we are going to discuss today. I will just give you the oral outline of the things which we are going to discuss. We will start with function first of all, and then we will study the lambda function, which is quite famous, and most of the time it is very confusing for people. And then we would be talking about classes and objects. We would be talking about inheritance. We would be talking about uh, file handling, which is also a very essential part of any programming language. And then we will end up with a, a an introduction to a new level, so that if you join the next level of workshop, beginner level, I mean, after beginner level, it is mediocre level, medium level. We would be working with lots of APIs. So right now we have one built-in API support for data handling for JavaScript, which is very famous. You know it already. It is JavaScript, JSON, right? So we would be talking about JSON also. So we would end up with JSON. So I'm just giving you once again the oral outline what we are going to cover today. We will be starting. I will give you the recap of the things which we have studied yesterday. I will start resume with function. I will teach you lambda function. I will teach you object and classes. I will teach you inheritance. I will teach you file handling. I will teach you JSON. So we would be ending up with JSON. JSON is a JavaScript supported API library, which Python has a built-in support for JSON. And then in the next sessions means when we were organizing the level 2 of the Python programming, we would be focusing on NumPy, Pandas, OpenCV. I mean, it is going to depend on what things you actually want to learn. So right now, today's session and yesterday's session, the level 1 session, the beginners level 1, was dedicated to basics of Python, right? So we would be resuming with that today. So if anybody has still a question about the installation, not running the IDE, not able to test simple and then I should resume with the things which we have left yesterday. So right now I'm switching off my camera. Because otherwise sometimes I feel issue in sharing. So it is going to at least help save some media. I think we should proceed because we are going to waste our time. If anybody has any issue, maybe we can when we will take the break, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before or after the break, we can dedicate to the people who have difficulty, right? Majority of the people have no difficulty, I guess, and they are able to run the IDE. So we should start working with the things which we have left yesterday. So I'm going to start with the things which were actually, first of all, I'll just give a brief outlook of how to create a project in PyCharm, right? So just take a look how we do that. So if your PyCharm is already like that, open in your screen, how you do that, go to the file, create new project, and give your project name. For example, if I give the project name, for example, for me it is day two, right? So I'm going to give the day two project name and do nothing, just simply create, right? And I want this window to be replaced with the new one. So the project is going to be created. You just see in a few seconds. Yeah, right. So main file is already created, right? So right now we are not concerning about the main file. If you see once again, if I create a project, you can skip even creating the file. This part. Yeah, here create a main.py welcome screen. If you want to skip it, just skip it, right? Because right now our objective is not the project management, not so many files which is going to handle through main. We are going to learn one by one, right? So it's again day two Python. This is the project which I'm going to create today without this checkbox. By default, this is on. I'm going to switch it off, right? So that I shouldn't have any, main file by default. So if you look at this new changed view, you will not have any file by default. See, there's no file, right? So now we're going to start how to open the file. So this refreshing part, this part which I'm talking right now with PyCharm, is just to refresh those people who could not cope up, could not run with that, right? So here, this I'm going to create here. Just check. This is here. The project name is day two Python, right? If you want to add new files, right click on that. See here, right click on that. New option is there. Select Python file, right? It will ask what your file name, right? So maybe I can for example, if I'm going to start with functions, right? So I will give the functions demo or something or like that, right? So Python file, I will say this is Python file. So blank file is coming, right? If I want to test whether it is working or not, so just put one simple instruction, print hello, and then how to run that file, right? You go to the file name on the list under the project, right click on it, you will find the green button, play button, right? This is for your file. So whatever number of files you have, if you want to run individually those files, you just select which file you want to run. Right now we have one project, one file, right? So we're going to run it. You see the output is here, right? This is here. And if you want to test anything to the console, here also you can do this thing very easily, right? So the same thing, I'm just testing it. So if I do it, print hello, this is hello. So right now you are enabled with two ways of doing it, right? You have the terminal, you have the file also. Today we would not be writing many of the codes in our terminal, because the codes which we are going to write today is a compound code. I mean, majority of the codes involve lots of instructions. So I don't want you to get into the trouble of aligning everything on terminal, on console, Python console. So let's put this to work on files, right? So our focus is writing program files through PyCharm. Again, revising, go to the file, new project, give file name, checkbox off for main file so that you shouldn't have any confusion. You get the blank file. The moment you get the blank file with your name you supply, you write something and you press play button, it is going to show you what you are actually writing, what's the problem or not, right? So this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So it is just to bring you on the same page, the things which actually I'm teaching you or I'm trying to help you to learn, right? So now I will switch back to the presentation just to give you a recap of the things which we studied yesterday, and then we would be moving ahead, right, one by one. So here we have I'm just closing some of the unnecessary windows here. Okay, so so let's start taking a quick review of everything we have studied today. Introduction, I don't need I need to explain that, right? So this is the things which we already have, print hello world and those kind of things. So just reminding you that, remember, indentation is necessary. Once again, Python has no type structuring other than indentation. So you have to follow the indentation for a number of codes, and for new line you have to simply press enter. You don't need to give semicolon or anything else, right? So this is indentation. And then we have discussed about comments and variables. We put single line comment by preceding with a hash. If you put hash towards any line, it is going to be comment. It is not going to be executed. It is for user programmer readability, right? This is for programmers understanding that I have written something. I should remember that, so I should put a comment on that. And the same thing which you can do by multi-line, putting 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes and open and close, right? And simply you can see variables. We don't have any strict type structuring. If you want type structuring, you can do that by using casting. So here you can see x is equals to str3, y is equals to int3, z is equals to 4. So they're strictly made str, int and float type. If you don't want, not sure what kind of data we are going to get, simply create variables which no type structuring. That's what in Python we do. So more variables, multiple values, and packing, unpacking. Just quick recap, right, of everything. And then I discussed that variables are by default, their scope is global unless you put this into some block. If you put into a block, it is going to be local. If you want this to be made global, keep it outside the scope of any modular part, right? And then I discussed one more important aspect, that if you have one local variable and you want to modify this within a local scope, within a function, from function, how you can do that. So you can make this function global by putting a global keyword. So if you look at that part here, x is equals to awesome is a global part. But if I do not put global x here, this x will be a separate x. So this is going to be a global x, this is going to be a separate local x. So these are 2 variables. If you want to modify x value from within this function, so you have to mention that there is a global x which I'm going to modify right now here. So this is how you do that, right? So just reminding you the things which we yesterday already have gone through. And then a brief summary of what potential data types we have. We already know that integer, float, double, character was already, they were supported in the previous programming languages which we have studied. What makes the Python more powerful is new data structures, which are basically list, tuple, range, dictionary, set, those kind of things. str is already supported in previous programming languages also. So these are some examples which I'm going to skip right now. And then we have discussed strings. Strings are basically a sequence of characters, right? If you even put a single character will also be treated as a single character string, right? A string with length 1. Okay, so we have done some basic operations on strings, like how strings can be printed, how individual elements of string can be treated as array and you can print that. For example, in the first example, if you see print A1, right? I said that it is the 0 and 1 first letter, so E will be printed like that, right? So, and even arrays or such sequencing structures, string or other sequencing structures can be iterated also. You can apply for loop on that also. You can count the length also. So lots of operations are there. So like I said, 45 operations are there other than those we have discussed. So you can look at that. Then we have discussed the Boolean type. When we need to make any Boolean decision, true or false sort of things, we can do that. And then we have summarily we have 7 category of operators, right? You already are aware with many of them. For example, arithmetic, comparison, which we use in if conditions, is already there. Assignment, when you assign a value in different ways. Bitwise operator is generally used to compare binary numbers and the operation according to that. And then logical and or not is there. Logical operator is there. Identity checks whether this thing is there or is not there, like that. And then membership, if you look for something, is in something or not, right? So this is just a quick summary of the things we have studied. Then I discussed in a little detail that what kind of potential new data structures we have. So Python list comes at the first place. We started with Python list, a collection of multiple values you can put into all together. How we know that it is a list? Bracket, square bracket is the identification with which we know that it is a list. So there are lots of list operations also. You have seen there are list methods, right? And then tuple we have discussed. What is the difference between tuple and list? We discussed. List is basically iterable and changeable, but tuple is not changeable. It is ordered, but it is not changeable. Yeah. Once you have declared it, you cannot change it, right? You can recreate, you can make new one, but you can't do that changes in that. Okay, so now the next data structure, powerful data structures which we discussed, is Python sets. You can again put a lot of data values all together into one, but the only thing which is different from the other two data structures we discussed is it is unindexed, unordered. You don't know which order it is going to follow. So if you want to, you want to be carefree that I don't know what kind of order it is, it should be stored somewhere, right? So you can use set. If you're not bothering about indexing, numbering, that this data element should be stored at first position, this at the second position, this at third, right? If you're not bothering about that, right, you can use sets and those situations. Okay. Then we have discussed a very special data structures which we call dictionaries, which is again a very new and very powerful data structure. It's a type supported in Python. It stores the data in key value format, right? So if you create an dictionary this day, and you give 1, 2, 3, the key values, and separate it by colon and give the values according to that. So key value pair is separated by colon, right? So you separate it and you make it, and you can print, you can store the values according to that, right? And there are lots of associated operations listed on the right bottom, right? Okay. Now we have discussed that how decisions can be made. So I gave a very simple example of if, else if, and else, right? So you can individually use either of it, right? If you do not want to put elif, you have no else, you can simply write if colon condition. Otherwise, if you want to use if else, you have just two decision makings, right? If you want to say that if this is true, do this, otherwise do this. So you can use without elif, you can use if else. And if you have multiple conditions, right, 10 conditions, 5 conditions, so you can separate each condition by elif. If this is true, do this, otherwise do this, otherwise do this, otherwise do this, otherwise do this. And at the end you can say that else do this, right? So it's kind of multi condition structure. So it's very powerful. This is the only condition statement we have right now. Okay, now we should move to Python loops. All right, so Python loops, like I said, we have discussed about this, while loops and for loops. So while is something which is not definite, which is always just checks the validity of the condition. So far the condition is valid, it runs. Once the condition is failed, it stops, right? And whereas for, if we are using for, we have already defined that there is a certain condition which is to be true for several times. So it is finite structure, right? So otherwise both are used for looping. Right now, this is our topic which we are going to resume today. Right, so today we have Python functions, just giving a quick look up at the things which we left yesterday, the place from where we have left yesterday. So like I said, the things which we have studied in the previous slides, we are going to use exhaustively all those concepts here in our modules, in our functions, in our functional programming part. Okay. So once again, a function is a block of code which only runs when it is called, right? So it is an independent module. You make the whole program divided into several independent units, and you just manage those units according to you. This style of programming is called functional programming or modular programming, right? You remember we have two more styles of programming. The C style, which we call, procedural programming. We don't make really, good functions or objects or like that. And in object-oriented programming, we make everything with classes and objects, which we will be covering today also, right? So right now it is going to discuss with functions. So, the functions are pretty straightforward. You have no complication in creating a function, right? Def is the keyword with which your this interpreter assumes that you have created a functions, right? Okay, just before starting, let's make a quick, introspection thought on something, right? Java, C, C++, they use compilers. It is said that they use compilers, and Python use interpreter. You know what's the difference between these two, compiler and interpreter? Just 1 minute can be dedicated to answer that, if you have answer for that. What is the difference between compiler and interpreter? Okay, maybe you would like to Google it, but it's fine. Even if you Google it, it is going to add up in your knowledge, right? No problem. So you just can anybody write or say that it is? Yeah, that's the difference between these two. While I take a sip of water. So anybody? Interpreter and compiler. What do you think? What's the difference between these two? At least we should know that how they work. Yeah, Ferrul, correct. This looks you copied from Google, but it's good. Okay, what is the meaning of that, basically? What's the, yeah, Ajwan. So what's the difference between interpreter? Yes, Khairul has said that interpreter translates just one statement of the program at a time. Compiler scans the entire program and the whole of it. So the basic difference in their operation is that you could see, without making a program, just simply write one line, right? And you can execute it in Python, okay? So for example, if you have 10 lines of code, Python checks every line for error one by one. The moment it reaches to the first error, it ignores the rest of the code for execution, right? It doesn't looks for the program's correctness in its entirety. So this is the operation of the interpreter, right? It interprets each instruction line by line and doesn't care about the entire program, right? So what the compiler does on the other side, basically compilers check for the errors in the entire program. So whole program for several errors all together, right, is checked, is scanned. Whereas in interpreter, the instruction is checked one by one. For example, if you have error at line number 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and so on, the moment it reaches to the first line with error, interpreter, right? Line number 10 has error, it is going to stop at that, and then it is going to ignore the remaining code for checking the errors, right? So that's a very, very fundamental, very important part to understand what's the difference between these two. So here, because I was talking about the interpreter, so I thought I should ask you if you understand or not, or even if you don't understand, you should know it. What is the difference between interpreter and compiler, right? So C, C++, all those programming languages use compilers. They check for the errors in the entire program, and then finally they generates the output, that error at line number this and this and this and that, right? While as Python, the moment it reaches to the first error, it ignores, stops, scanning, and just asks you to, correct it. Okay, let's move ahead. So, like I said, def is the keyword with which you actually, create function. My underscore function is my function name, which could be anything. You can give any function name to your function, right? And then follow the indentation again after semicolon, right? And then put series of instructions within your function, and then we can start with that, right? So for example, if I just test that part, right? So how I'm going to do that, def, right? My function, right? I'm going to create a function, semicolon, and then press enter. Automatically it aligns me. So that's how editors are useful. If you use, Sublime, or if you use PyCharm, they are automatically have at least this support, that it is automatically aligning. So you do not need to press the spaces and then, confusing that why my program has this error again and again. Just follow a simple flow. It automatically takes you to the indentation style of programming, right? So if I write that here, print in double quotes or single quotes, I can do this, right? That function, right? This is done. Okay, and then maybe I would like to call my function here, right? So if I run this code, let's see what it does, right? See, look at that part. Yeah, this is your output. Hello world. So my function. So this is def is the keyword. My function is my function name. These are the instructions under the scope of this function, right? And then this is after one line gap, it assumes that your function is finished, and then this is called the function call. So maybe I can put this as a comment, function call, and then here before that, this I can say, or next to this I can say function definition, right? So this is how I'm just telling you that this is part is the function definition. The whole of it, the function's body, the whole of it means this part, and this is the function's usage. This is we call or usage, okay? Usage, right? So this is how it is. Let's go back. So just a quick, look of that, and then I told you that how you can actually give inputs to your functions, right? If you want to give input, you don't need to worry. Just declare a variable, and while using that function, supply the value. So if I modify this function, in front of you, if I want, so maybe I would like to have a variable called simply name, right? If I have simply name, so what do you think? What name I should give? For example, if I want to give my name, right? Farhad Khan. And if I go and run, right, so it should show me the name. Sorry, I haven't saved that code, sorry. Okay, so I have to save every time I should make changes, right? Oh, sorry. Made the changes, but I haven't actually changed in this part. So here, maybe I would like to change this string hello world. Instead of hello world, I should say hello and then name, right? So the name which I will supply will be printed with a hello, right? So if I do that, hello Farhad Khan, right? So you see name I gave, and that print function has made this to print with a hello, and so this is how you can play around, right? So this is again hello and welcome. Save it and then run it. Hello and welcome Farhad Khan, and then yeah. So this is how you give input to your functions. right? And then now I'm going to take it to the level next, right? So function with no parameters, function with parameters. Now starting today's session with default arguments. Default arguments means, for example, if you forget to give the input, for example, if you don't want to give input, but there are possibility of inputs for other people who want to use that function. So you can define that function as a default parameter, right? So here, if you see, I'm going to explain this code first of all, right? Def my function, then country is equals to Malaysia. So what I'm doing actually here, I have created a variable name as country, and then I have set the default value to this function is Malaysia, right? So if somebody tries to use this function, if they give the values to a new country, it is going to print the new country, right? If you don't want this, I mean, if you forget or if you don't want to give the country name, by default it is going to take Malaysia, right? So let's test that, right? The same function here. I'm going to use country is equals to here. I am giving Malaysia, right? Function definition. I should change it with default argument or parameter, right? Sorry, parameter. Yeah. Okay. So now you can say I'm from the country, and then you put your country name, comma, right? And then there should be a variable, right? This is how it is. See, look at that. I'm from plus country, right? Yeah. Concatenation can be done with comma, no problem. And if the you know, in input argument in the print statement are of the same type, like this is text, this is string, this is also text, you can even combine those with plus also. But I prefer not to get into any trouble, so always use this. Even if this is a number, it is going to be printed, right? I'm from country. Okay, let's use this function. Okay, so for example, if I use Brazil, okay, just let me yeah, function. Okay, sorry, I have to give this as a string because input is given as a string. Okay, let's make save and then run it. What it shows here, you can see I'm from country Brazil, right? Now the default validity of the default argument. I don't want to give any argument. Let's see what it shows. See, by default I'm from the country Malaysia, right? So this is how it is to be done. Default value. If somebody doesn't give any input, it is going to get a default value. Instead of getting into errors, it's better to get a default value, right? So this is how it is. Maybe I will give you 1 minute, just 1 minute to test it, so that you know we should not run very fast because we have lots of things to cover. So I will dedicate for each exercise this 1 minute. You have the code open, 3 lines of code. I don't think it is going to take more than few seconds, right? So you can test it with country name you give without giving a country name. So this is we call function definition with default arguments, right? We're giving default argument. Just make sure that you are actually writing those codes, because if you will simply listen me and writing if you don't write the codes on your editor, you're going to forget everything. The moment the session is over, you're going to forget everything. And better, I should suggest you that for each exercise you just save your exercises, right? So for example, I have written the functions demo. Maybe I will be using after the function, I will be making another file in the same directory. I don't need to create, several projects. That's why I have created a project named day2 Python. So whatever I'm going to, write as a code in day2, I'm going to make file for this. So right now I have demonstrated the function. Next, I'm going to explain you lambda function. So how I will do that, I will just create new again file. So I'm going to say lambda demo, right? So this is by default, it is a Python file. So let's move back to the concept of lambda function, right? So these are the functions which we have. Okay, there are more complications in the functions which I would like to discuss, right? Because the functions which we have studied right now are really very basic. But once you start write good programs in Python, projects in Python, you will find with lots of such, style of coding, you will come across with that, and you should be aware with it. At least if you don't, you're not expert in that, if you're not really very much aware, very much confident in that, but you should be aware, right? The things next which I'm going to teach you. So it is basically the function arguments, right? Do not worry about the complication of these things. One by one, I will discuss. So, like I said, we have number of arguments here already defined. So if you look at this code, my function has both of the functions which is displayed on the screen has single argument. The first example, the first demo right here, this function is showing you the default argument. There is one more example which you would like to follow, which is taking the input as a list, right? So you see fruits is equals to apple, banana, cherry. This is a list because it is enclosed in bracket. So this fruits is given as an input to your function, and then I have used iterator of that. Maybe I should write this function so that you should understand that what actually I'm trying to do. Okay, so this is the function, right? If I do not give any argument, see, I'm giving one argument here, food, and this food is going to be a list, right? So how I can print the list within that? So I just simply run for item in food colon, right? Automatically it is aligning me, right? Print item. It's very simple, very easy to go. And then here, after this program, pressing one enter, I'm going to make a list of food. Food is equals to list, and what are the data items we have? Cherry, comma, next, oranges, orange. Maybe I would like to have one apple. It's okay, it's morning, I should take one apple. Okay, and then this food is to be given as the input to this function, right? So if you see, my function is, this is the function call. I'm giving a list as an input to this function, and this list will be taken by this function as an input, and this list will be printed item wise, one by one, right? So let's run this program. Cherry, orange, apple, you see. So what's the point actually? Point is that here we have given one input. Here also we have given one input as a list. So a collection of objects we have given, right, as an input. Just assume that if your function is not sure, or you come across with a situation when you are not sure that how many number of inputs we can have, right? In previous programming languages, I don't remember there's any kind of support like this, right? So generally we use pointers for if we have many functions, and prompt and learning pointers has killed many programmer enthusiasts, right? They lost their passion while learning the pointers in C++. So right, anyway, so here it's pretty straight, looks like pointer, but it's pretty straight. See, here we have arbitrary arguments, we call it star args, right? This looks a little geeky, looks a little technical, but it's nothing actually. It's just you put put pointer in easier way, right? So what arbitrary arguments star args, which we call it by default, what it says, if you do not know how many arguments that will be passed into your function, how many number of inputs your function is going to take, if you're not sure about it, you just put a star before the parameter, right? The argument which you put, right? For example, if you see the function def, my function is going to have arbitrary arguments. You know, star kids means it is going to take as many as number of input arguments you put. It is not going to create any problem. And what it is going to do, it is going to print the third value which you put. For example, if I'm giving, my function called three names, right? Kids names, Akil, Hassanin and Omer, right? So the youngest child is Omer. This is going to be your output. How it is going to be? Because I'm asking my function to print the youngest child, the arbitrary number of arguments, and the position of the value which I am interested in is the third value. Third value means array's second index, 0, 1, 2. I'm just reminding you that always arrays or list or such numbers always starts with 0 index. So let's try this thing. Here, def my function star, I'm giving food, right? And then if you look at that, this part, I'm just going to change the functionality of this code, right? So I'm going to say print the best fruit is, maybe I would like to, you can put up the choice of your, two choices, which one you think is the best. For example, if I'm going to put four values, right? So here I'm going to give, just look at this definition. My function, three strings I'm giving here. I'm going to give three fruits name. So for example, I'm giving apple, this one, and then orange, cherry, and then maybe I like mangoes. And for me it is best, right? For me, right? For you it could be the other fruit, right? So here, zeroth position is apple, first position is orange, cherry second, mango third. So that's how I want to say that the best fruit is mango. If I want to do that, I have arbitrary number of arguments, star food, right? If I run this thing, I got it. I got the best fruit. So the best fruit is mango, right? So maybe you would like to dedicate 1 minute for repeating the same exercise. Follow the flow. Follow the flow means follow me, because after this, things are going to get a little warm, very serious. So it is going to be very exciting part. From lambda onwards, you're going to, the high level of beginners, the serious Python programs you're going to learn in the beginners level, right? So just go ahead with that. Try every demo possible. If there is any issue, you can let me know. You can write the text if there is any problem. If I could quickly help you, I will write the answer. Maybe otherwise we will put this to our QA session, right? So individually we can talk about that. And otherwise, just follow every exercise. So let's go ahead with that. So here, with instead of writing the default argument, I'm writing it with arbitrary number of arguments, right? So def my function star food. See, even if it looks like pointer, but it looks very simple. You don't need to worry about data structure, giving pointer variables or those kind of. Simply you put unanimous number of values. Just remember this thing, how it is different. I'm not putting any list in, right? It is a simple collection of strings, simple collection of names, right? I'm putting. So my function doesn't know that how many numbers I'm going to put, but my function is enabled to handle as many as number of arguments you can put because it has a star food. Star is prefixed with the input argument. So you should be very careful. You should understand that, right? Okay, let's move ahead. Now, so here I have put a note. You should take a notice of that. Arbitrary arguments are often shortened to star args in Python documentation. So basically, what it means say, it means it says like that, just simple. So sometimes it looks very, very geeky, very technical. People get confused of what's this, pointer args. So basically, this means it is just a list of arguments I have. So you should not be worried about that. So point is, why we give this kind of name is just because I'm not sure that what kind of data, how many number of inputs we are going to put, right? Yeah, of course, Khairul, food 2 will choose cherry, and you can just change the code and run it, no problem. You make yourself sure. Okay, so what I was saying, that point star args means it's nothing technical. It says that it is arguments, number of arguments. So star arguments means unknown number of arguments. You shouldn't be worried about that if you see any Python documentation, right? When I was starting, learning Python, if I get anything like this in the function, I really get worried about what's that. I don't understand this thing, from where it is coming, and because I don't get the programmers help which we used to get from the internet, from Stack Overflow or other such sources. They don't write those things because they assume that you already know those things, right? So this is a very good understanding of those things. I'm just making sure that you are running the code. Just see, there's no change in that, right? The best fruit is still mango, right? If you like Khairul said, if you want to sorry, I should mention here this. If you like cherry, you can mention cherry as your best fruit. You see, best fruit is cherry. So okay, next, move ahead. So like I said, arbitrary number arguments are often shortened to star arg. So now from onwards, you shouldn't be worried about, if you look at the number of arguments, you shouldn't be worried about this. This is a pretty straightforward, very simple thing, and it looks a little technical and geeky, but you shouldn't be worried about it. Now next is, right now we have n number of arguments. We don't know how many number of arguments. Now I'm going to tell you that just assume that if you want to set your function's input in a key value syntax order, right? Like if you want to give values to your respective inputs, right? There is a mapping between the function call and then the function's definition. For example, if look at this order. First of all, def my function, child 3 is here, child 2 is here, child 1 is here. So whatever functions input arguments order I want to give. But if I want child 2 to this specific value, child 1 to this specific value, child 3 to this specific value, irrespective of the order by which it is created in the function definition. If I want to do that, right? So how should I do that? This is called keyword arguments, right? So there is a mapping between the input here, function calls input, to the actual parameters of your function. So here, although I have mentioned child 3 here, if I don't tell you, you will say that this Akil is going to be child 1, right? Naturally, this is the reflex which we are going, because we understand that these 1-to-1 input here, right? But here you should look at that. Child 3 is what we put at child 3 in functions code. So this is called key valuing. So here it is this is our key, right? This is our key, sorry. Yes, I can use mouse pointer also, right? Yeah. So this is going to be my key, and this is the value which I'm going to supply. So between this and this, there is a correspondence. This is we call, key value. So if you want to do that, you can also do that. So this is we call keyword arguments, right? So let's test that. Sorry, I should run it. Okay, switch back. So like I said, here I'm going to change this function to my, uh, fruit 1, fruit 2, fruit 3, okay? And then if I want to say anything like here, so my fruit 2 is good, right? 3 arguments. So I'm here, I should change in the same way, right? Maybe I should put 2 here, 1 here, and 3 here. So I just randomize the order of the function, basically fruit 2, fruit 1, fruit 3. Okay, and yeah, okay, and then here I'm going to put a random correspondence, right? So I'm going to say that fruit 1 is equals to orange, comma, and then fruit 3 is equals to mango, and similarly fruit 2 is equals to which fruit I should give. For example, cherry, right? This is how it is. So you should be careful with that. Fruit 1 is orange, fruit 3 is mango, and fruit 2 is that. And there is no ordering also here also, right? So right now, I'm least bothered about ordering. Why? Because I have already, mapped these things. Whatever value I will put fruit 2 here, this will be automatically come here in fruit 2. Right? See, fruit 2 I'm going to check. What answer I'm expecting. Cherry should be printed. Let's save this code, Control S and run is. See, quite interesting those things, quite powerful those things are, right? These are very tiny concepts which actually you don't, easily get from the tutorials, but these are very, good practices. And the purpose of explaining this to you in the beginners level, because at least you should be aware if you are writing a project and if you're looking for help, or if you're trying to do that, you should be, already aware with those basic utilities. So let's go ahead. Okay, so the next is, like the first example which we have discussed here in Python functions, arbitrary arguments. We have star args. Similarly, the keyword arguments, the one which we just have tested, could also be, unanimous number, could be any number, anonymous number, right? Could be 10, could be 5, could be 3. So if you come across with such situation, you just put double star, right? You put double star, and again, this is also documented as KW args. KW represents keyword, and args is same as the arguments. See, so it's kind of, demystifying. It is opening the secret of writing the very complicated code people write. Generally write KW args, and the moment we see it, literally, this is the story of me. When I was learning Python, and if I'm looking for some, project help and looking Stack Overflow, the moment I see double star KW args, I got, into trouble. That what's that? From where it is coming? I have no understanding of that, right? So this is really a very, a very good thing to know at this level, in the beginning level. So if you have arbitrary number of keyword arguments, you put it KW args. Okay. So let's put this to work. Here, I don't need to be. double, and then maybe fruit, maybe KW. I think I should start with KW args, right? Yeah, KW args. And then keyword argument, what I want, KW args, 2. Okay, for example, I want 2, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, I have to redesign this in a different way. I think I should take that example. Okay, start KW args, KW, uh, instead of this, I should write L name. Okay, is it okay? Yeah, put this in double quotes. Okay, and now here I can skip, uh, the first F name and L name right here. Farhad, and then L name is equals to Farhad. I hope it is okay. Okay, now save the code. See, just explaining and then we will run this code. Star, double star args. So how many number of arguments, keyword arguments, KW args you provide, it doesn't affect anything. And you hear F name, L name, I'm going to make changes also in that also, right? So F name and L name you give, and you already know that this is the L name is your key, and this is the value. If you want to print the key value of from the arguments L name, giving L name, the value of this key will be printed. Let's run this code. Okay, this the best fruit is not Farhad. The kids or the tutor name is names title. This looks more reasonable. The tutor name's title is fine, right? So this is how it is. Now, like I said, F name, L name. You don't need to worry about the list of keyword arguments. Maybe I want to do some middle name, M name. Sometimes we come, across the situations when we have middle name also, right? So X, Y, Z, just anything, right? So save it, and then if you want M name, is it okay? M name, yeah. The tutor's name title is okay. Okay, making it more reasonable. The tutor middle name is XYZ. Okay, so this is how it is. It's a simple thing. What you need to take away. What is your taking point from this? First of all, we don't worry about the keyword arguments, number of arguments which we have, and the second thing is as many as number of arguments you can supply. Just make sure that you are whatever key value you are putting up, you just remember that what key you want to access to print the value, respective value. That's the thing. Okay, so just maybe you can practice it in a minute and then we can move ahead. So we are done for the functions here at least, right? So we are done with the functions. We will be moving to the next idea, which we have said, that lambda function, right? Lambda operation. So we are going to concentrate on that after a minute, just 1 minute. Okay, so let's move. So we have studied, we have learned a lot about functions, right? So just summing up with that, we have learned with functions with no arguments, plain straightforward, functions with arguments, functions with default parameters, functions with arbitrary arguments, function with keyword arguments, and function with arbitrary keyword arguments. So this is where I'm leaving you, and this is going to give you a serious impression, right? So now moving to the lambda function. So lambda is basically, another variety of function, which is kind of generally we call inline functions or shorthand function, or the functions which have the validity while doing some big job, right? Big task it is performing, the main function, but the lambda function is used just for, a very small part of it, and it works, and it is done like that, right? So a lambda function, I'm just summarizing the points which I have written here. A lambda function is a small anonymous function, right? Is a small functions which doesn't need to exist for long. That's why it is called anonymous function. It comes, it does your job, and it helps you, and it goes back, right? Goes back means there's no need of this function again. It doesn't need to be stored in the program's memory while executing, right? So it is just like single instruction function, inline function, okay? A lambda function can take any number of arguments but can only have one expression. So like I said, it is a shorthand function, right? If you want to do something, you have to write your instructions meticulously in single expression, right? So here you have example, which may look a little, weird, a different thing, not like functions, but I will explain and then you will understand that. So there is a variable x is equals to, x is basically, just collecting the value which lambda function is going to get as a result, right? So you don't need to worry. X is equals to lambda a colon here represents such as, right? So lambda a in such a way that whatever the value of a should be added with 10. This is how you write a simple inline function, right? Okay, so I have a question from Ijmal. Just I need to answer that. May I ask again why KW args is important to add in function statement? Okay, so like I said, when you're not sure that how many number of arguments you're going to get, right? When you're not sure that how many number of inputs to your function, or anywhere you want to collect, n number of arguments, and you are not sure that how many number of arguments are going to get as an input to the function, right? You use KW args, keyword args, right? So keyword args means if double star, it is unanimous. I mean, it is as many as number of inputs you want. And if you want simple KW args without double star, right? So KW args, you can see here, right, is a key value mapping. Key value mapping means you do not need to worry about ordering of the input with respect to the function's input. See, I'll show you again. Child 3, child 2, child 1. Child 3 is at first place, child 2 as you're actually doing with this keyword arguments, you're actually binding the correspondence of the input. So wherever you write child 1 or child 2 or child 3, it will be taken already by unordered, the jumbled up order of your input arguments. So order doesn't matter, it maps your input to your function call. That's the simple, justification of KW args. And if you have as many as number of KW args, you can use it double star. Okay, let's move ahead. So like I said, lambda is very simple. X is equals to, okay. Are you guys able to see my screen?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's what I was I guess I got disconnected. We lost your network connection. Okay, just my internet is creating issues. Okay, we are back here. All right, so like I said, lambda argument expression. This is the structure. This is the syntax of the lambda expression. Here you can see this part. This is your syntax, right? Lambda argument expression, right? How we write it, it is just a placeholder of the result of x. So you do not need to, worry about this. Yeah. So we write lambda, the variable a, in such that the operation you want to perform. So for example, I have a lambda variable a, and what I want to add 10 to whatever value you give as an input to a, right? So here, see, print x, because x is defined as the result of the lambda function. So x will be treated as lambda function. X5 means you are giving this 5 to input to your this lambda function. So a is going to be 5, and a will be in such a way that a means 5 plus 10 is going to be returned as x. So print x is going to print this thing, right? This part. I think I have made this clear, okay? Okay, so now, I have the same thing, right? Lambda functions can take any number of arguments. You can see any number of arguments. So there is the next example, which is showing it is taking 2 inputs, right? So you have created a lambda function sum. Sum is taking 2 inputs, 5 and 6, whatever number you give here, will be taken to A and B, and then they will be summed together. The result will be coming back to sum, and so this value will be printed, right? So this is a pretty straightforward function, right? Now I have one practical usage of that, right? See, I have defined a function which is named at my function. I'm giving one input to my function here, right? And this function is keeping the operation of a lambda. What it is actually doing, it is returning lambda as an output, that whatever give as an input will be multiplied by another number which is supplied. Sorry. Yeah. So you see, this is my doubler. Okay, so here my doubler is kind of object, is a kind of replica created for my function. So this is my function I have created, right? I have made an object, my doubler, which is going to hold the result of this my function, right? So here, if 2 is given an input, right? Okay. Okay, so 2 is given as an input. This is going to multiply with whatever value you supply to your function. So your lambda function is taking 2 as an input. So here we're going to have 2, and now give this function's copy. This function's copy means my doubler. Give the input. So this 11 will be coming here like this, right? So here whatever you value you have set as a replica this, and then whatever input you give, both are multiplied together and result is displayed. So maybe that's you can, you can get confused with that. So I will explain this thing again. You have defined a function which is using a lambda function first of all, right? And then again you have created the one instance of this my function, variable of this function, which is called my doubler. My doubler is taking input to your function, and this is going to be your lambda input. This is going to be your lambda input, right? And now this my doubler function itself is again assigned as n, right? So this is n is coming here, right? So whatever you give, so result is 2 multiplied by, this is the result, right? So this is one very important, lambda function, which is commonly, frequently it is used in variety of applications also, even in the high level APIs for like image vision and lots of things. It's a very handy tool. You do not need to store your function in the memory. You actually do not need to define a def statement for that. You just make it to work and just get it destroyed like that. Okay, so now maybe you would like to practice this one before I should start with uh, the classes and objects. Let's try this. Okay, so maybe yeah, lambda I already have. Okay, so x is equals to lambda a in such a way that a plus 10, right? And then print x 5. So x is given as an input, which is going to take a place here, and then if I print it, sorry, I need to run this function. Result is 15. You see? So whatever I give as an input to this function x is going to be taken as here, and then it is printed. Okay. So let's use two variables, maybe a plus b, and then I want to give this name sum. Okay, so here number of arguments a and b such that a plus b, right? This is how it is. A plus b, right? So if you give the input to your sum 5, 10, 15, right? This is how it is. And then again, we're going to create a function for that. Def fun, right? If I give n input, and this n input is going to be in that way that it is going to return lambda a such that a multiplied by n. This is what we have written. See, return lambda a in such a way that a is multiplied by n. A is multiplied by n. Okay. Okay. So this function is basically, I should give a different name. My multiplier is equals to fun, and fun is going to multiply with whatever value you give, right? Yeah. Okay. And then again, print my W11. Maybe I would like to give 10. Yeah. Okay. So let's run this code. So here I have defined a function which is taking n. N is going to be multiplied whatever give I give this function's instance input. 3 is input is here, and then my multiplier is the lambda function. 10 is going to be here, and then 10 and multiply 3. Result is plain straightforward. So I can give you 1 minute to practice all of those. I'm going to switch it to the PPT. If you want code to show, you can show. Otherwise, it's a straightforward because it has all these 3 examples. That's why I'm putting it. I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. let's move forward. So that was your Lambda function. Now we are going to learn about the classes and objects and so on. Classes and objects, we already know that it is the beginning of object-oriented programming, right? So like I said, Python supports object-oriented programming, Python supports procedural programs, Python supports functional programming, modular programming, which we already have done with the functions, right? So you can write collection of functions, you can simply write straight line by line code, and even you can write object-oriented programs using classes and objects, right? So this session is going to be an our overview of Python classes and objects. So there are a few points which I've mentioned. I just want to reiterate that part. Python is an object-oriented programming language. We all know almost everything in Python is an object with its properties and methods. Like in Java, also everything is an object. This is the philosophy they say. Okay, and then class is like an object constructor or a blueprint for creating objects. So these are the things which we are already studying about C++, about Java and those things, right? So how the best part is the way the classes are created, and the way it is actually made convenient in Python to make it to work, right? You see, class is a key word with which you can actually create a class, and like other compound statement, group of statements, it has scope with colon. So class name, and then colon, and whatever you write in the class is going to be your class, right? So class, there is a variable which is declared inside x is equals to 5, and then if I print my class, right, not the variable. So it is going to show that it is class main my class, right? So it is showing the type of my class object, right? My class instance. Okay, now if I want to access the variable or the information which we have within the function, inside the function, right? So we will be accessing through the objects, like in Java, like in C++, anything which is mentioned as this class, we can mention it through by creating objects. Okay, so let's look at the second example on the right side, right? This part. Okay, so class my class x is equals to find is pretty straightforward. The smallest possible code for a class, right? You can write. And even if you don't want to mention anything in the class, here I will show you in place of this. If you want to create an empty class, you can create this empty class also by simply writing PASS, right? So if you in place of this, if you write a pass statement, it is going to create an empty class, right? So it's okay, just for your information. So my class x is equals to 5. Now I need to create the object. It's pretty straightforward. Give the object name is equals to class name with this symbol, with double open close bracket, right? This is a symbol of like we are using C++ or Java. We give this constructor like that. So P1 is my object. Now the class is instantiated, right? When I say instantiated, means the one instance, one copy, one running object of this blueprint is created. P1 is the running program. P1 is equals to my class. If I want to print the value of x through P1x, I can print. It is going to simply print that, right? It's very straightforward. So before I should proceed, just put this to work here. Now I'm going to create another file, new file. I'm going to say it class demo, class object demo, make more sense, right? So here class is a keyword, my class, and then this is like that. See, class, my class, no open close, nothing. Just declare a variable. Sorry, x is equals to 5, and just in the next line, you just try to print the class, my class. Let's see what happens, right? So here I need to run this program. So for once at least you need the same thing it is showing, right? Class, my class. The main function is by default it is there. Even if you mention a class, the moment you declare a class, it is inherent, right? You can explicitly change the way the main has to perform, but by default it is already there. So the technical details which is hidden in Python shows this thing to you, right? Okay, like I said, I want an empty class. Can I do that? Let's see. Can I? See, I have run again. So there's no problem. Again, this means it is an empty class, right? Okay. So let's put some value and print it. X is equals to 10, like previously I have. Now, instead of printing the class, I'm going to create one object is equals to from my class, and open close is necessary, which shows that you are actually instantiating your class. So constructor would be called. I would be talking about these things, constructor and everything in the next few slides also. You will understand all of it. Okay. So print my class should be changed with object name dot x, whatever the variable you want to access, and then run it. You see, through object you can access the details of the class, right? So let's move ahead. Maybe you try test it first, yeah, just for a few seconds, and then we proceed. Okay, now I have put a note for that, because if you're working in real life applications, we don't make classes like that. These are pretty simple, and these are just for information. They have no practical significance or practical usage. So for making your program to actually work for for industry projects or something, the way it is written is you should have init function. Why it is, I mean, it's not about the industry standard, it's about the way of making your classes useful is to add init function. So init function, if you look at that, it's not a symbol basically. First of all, this part, the big line is basically 2 underscores, right? So you should not confuse with that. The init function starts with 2 underscores, init keyword, and 2 underscores end, and then open close. So that is how this is the way it is written function, right? The init function. And what is the utility of the written function, right? It is, if you know the idea of constructor is I tell you, in C++ or in Java, constructor is something which actually helps to initialize the objects, right? When we call the initialization of objects, which means whatever information data which you have in your class will be initialized with some default values, some values which you already have defined as a default argument, default value, default settings. So summarily, it's basically, it is a setting which you already have made in your class. The moment you create an object, the constructor is called, right? So here in Python, we have init function for that. Init function takes care of the initial settings while creating the objects for a class, right? So all classes have a function called init, which is always executed when the class is being initiated, right? When we call class is being initiated means when we try to create an object, the class blueprint runs, right? So use the init function to assign values to object properties or other operations that are necessary to do when the object is being created, right? So that's, we don't directly say that it is a constructor function, but it is the function which actually takes care of the initial object properties, and it is done the moment object is being created. So let's proceed with that. I'm just, the 4 lines you can ignore. It is the same line. I just have put it here so that you should reiterate, you should remember it. Look at the example, 1, this example. Okay, there is a class I have created called class person, right? And I have, mentioned the init function here. Def is like any other function, and underscore init underscore double underscore preceded and succeeded, right? And then I have 3 arguments, you see, right? One argument which is self, the other 2 arguments are name and age, right? So basically name and age makes sense. We understand that, okay, in any function we can have n number of arguments, but what this self is doing, it is not a variable basically, right? Variables, practically your init function has 2 variables only, which are name and age. Listen carefully this thing which I'm saying, right? It's a very interesting part. That's why I have put a note for self parameter in the end. So in init function, there are practically 2 variables, name and age. The third variable at first place, which you are seeing, self, right? Self is basically referencing the object itself the moment you create. So it's basically a referencing variable. It actually, keeps track of the object created for the class. Okay. Okay, so I have a question from Farzana Kamal. The question is, what is the difference between class and function? So, okay, so function is basically, an independent simple module which can be independently executed, called by other functions, right? Used by other functions, like that. So it is an independent module, whereas class is something which keeps data and functions all together in one place. So basically we say that class is a wrapper, right? Is something, is a unit which actually, combines data and its associated operations together in one place. This is we call classes, right? So I hope this makes, your idea clear. Class is something, is a wrapper which keeps the data and the information, the related operations together. For example, if you look at the same example which I'm discussing, class is a person, right? This is keeping the data. Data means name and age are the storage, right? So this is the data part. And then I have, you see in this example, I have the operations, functions. So this keeps information and the operations together. This is your info and this is your related operations. Whereas functions only do some operations with the value you supply, right? So function could be a part of it, could be a part of class, right? So I hope this makes, clear this thing to you. Let's go back to the discussion. Okay, so like I said, init function to assign values to object properties or other operations, we use init function. How we use it? Def in the class, in the body of the class, def underscore double underscore init double underscore, right? And then self we mentioned for referencing the object itself, right? And then name and age. So you can understand that this part is inherent, and then other than this you can have many number of arguments. And then there's one more thing which I wish to say. You do not need to mention the self, writing self as the self, right? I mean, it is not necessary that you write self only as your self-referencing variable. You can give anything, but it is going to be at the first place. I have mentioned this part here. You read this part. It doesn't have to be named self all the time, right? You can call it whatever you like, but it has to be the first parameter of any function in the class, right? So if you are making the init function, you can make it self. Generally, conventionally, we put it self. Generally, because we want everyone to understand that we are using a self-referencing variable, and other than that, we have other variables, right? So much of talking. Let's put this to work. I'm just going to explain and this write the demo of this. Okay, so def init self name age, three variables are there. Self dot name. See, self is talking about this object's name, and self dot age is saying this object's age, right? So this self is referring these two, right? Yeah. Okay, so now I have created one object p1 of person, which I'm giving name and age, and then I'm printing those things, right? So let's put this to work, and then you also try it. So I'm giving class person, right? And then def underscore double underscore init. I am typing it. I'm not taking the help of IntelliSense. This is we call IntelliSense, the already it is showing the typing. That's why I was asking not to use to the students, because that's how it make you less skilled. Writing code everything by your own is going to make you write the code, make you learn to write the code. If you use IntelliSense, you will forget it, right? So that's how we shouldn't use. If you're learning any new programming language, you should not use any advanced IDE like NetBeans, like PyCharm, like other. But because right now we have difficulty in configuring of Python, and then those kind of issues are actually pulling us back. So that's how we have avoided. But still, if you want to learn with PyCharm, try to write every code, every line instruction by your own. Def in itself, and then I need to have two more variables, name comma age, and then close it. How we assign the values to that, right? Self dot okay, just let me make sure. Yeah, self dot name and age. So my function is created, and then I need to create the object of the class. So you just take care that you should go out of the class. Class scope is at this line, so I should go get 2 line presses, and then I should create question1 object is equals to question and open close. This is how I do that, right? And then I want to print name is like that, and then p1 dot name. Similarly, age is p1 dot age. Right, so I hope there is no problem. Let's try this. So you see, class I have created def init function, which is actually going to set the values which I supply while creating this. Okay, sorry, I haven't given a name to that. Yeah, constructors, I haven't given the name. Okay, so name first, I should give name, Brian, for example, and then age is, for example, I give 26 years. Okay, so I hope this is okay. Yeah, so I have created the object with two input arguments. This Brian is going to be stored here. This 26 is going to be stored here. And these name and age will be the local copies of the variables here, right? This name and age, right? Or maybe I should make it clear, so that you shouldn't have confusion. Person's name, person's age, right? So this is how it is. P name and person's age, right? So now you will understand this part. So these are the local variables. Name and age are the local variables which are created for this class, and they are being set with the value you supply here. So Brian is going to be stored in input function, input argument, p name. 26 is going to be stored here, page. And these two variables are going to help to set the object's local variable name and age, right? So you should understand the flow, how it is actually being run. Now let's save and run. Name is Brian, age is 26. Again, I will take you here. I'm clearing all erasers. I should show you how the flow is. So here, instead of name, I have used, for example, sorry, not F name, I have used P, right? So this is your P, and this is your, sorry, this is your P, right? So P name, P age. So my objective here is to tell you how the data is actually flowing within the class, right? So you have created a class, you have created an init function, self you have mentioned already, so that it should be, going to whatever values you take here, it is going to be used to initialize the local variables of the class, right? So self.name is the property of this class, right? This class, and they are going to get the values they are going to get from the input to the init function, and from where this init function is going to get the input, the moment you create the object, that is what it is mentioned. See this line, all classes have a function init which is always executed when the class is being initiated. So this is called functions, sorry, this is called class initiation. Person, Qasim, and 36, if I give value, this value will be, sorry, so this value will come here, this value will come here, and then from here, here, and from here, this value here, and these local variables of the object. So objects characteristics are being set with the help of init function. This is how we do it, right? Now, maybe you would like to practice, and then I would remove this, and let's go to add one function in that, right? So here, this second example is involving a function. This is the function which I'm going to add in my class. So now class is going to have the data, and the class is going to have operation, right? This is your data, this is your operation. That's what you were asking for, Zana, right? So data and operations can be combined together in class, right? So maybe you would like to practice this exercise, and then we move ahead. I will make the changes in this class demo by adding a function name. Just for 1 minute. So let's switch it back to give you a reference of this example, the second reference, right? Here you just have to add the function which is actually displaying the name. Maybe you can add the age also, right? So here within the class, following the alignment of the this def, how you're actually creating a function, right? So what we can say, maybe I would like to display the information. What's that? Show info, right? And then see, print what I want to print. Name is, comma, what's that? Self dot name, right? See here, self dot name, right? And similarly, you can write another statement. You can say age is this and that, comma, self dot, sorry, self dot age. This is how it is. And now I have initialized already these variables. Now these statements are going to be removed, right? And then I'm going to call the function, right? P1 dot show info. So simply I have replaced those explicit print statements. I have put this in a member function, in my classes member function, right? So let's put this to work. So output is although the same, but the way it is working is changed, right? So def show info is the function which I am using, right? So I have given function as an input Brian, and 26 is the input which I have given. Again, Brian is going to be stored in init, right? Why it is going to be stored? Because I said init function is used to initialize the initial settings while you create the object. So here actually I'm creating the object, right? This is how it is. I have already mentioned this part. See, in the end, note, very important thing is note. The init function is called automatically every time the class is being used to create a new object. Maybe I will create another object. You see, maybe I should show the person2 is equals to the person, and this time maybe I would take one example from the participants. For example, the recent run, and then maybe it could be 20, 21, 22 years, whatever is the age. You just put, right, and then p2 dot show info. This is the second person's instance is created, right? This is how it is. So maybe another 1 minute for just proof of concept, developing this proof of concept, and then let's go with the next idea. By the way, how is it going so far? Is it going really difficult, really hard? Or is it okay? It is okay as of now, it's not really difficult. Great. Good to see. It is okay. So far, so good. Nice. So I think everything we have, done so far is workable, not really very difficult. Okay. And that's the feeling I want to, I want until end. Anything, anywhere, if it is troubling you, you can put your messages, and I'm following your messages. So I will give the answers to you. Good to go? Move ahead. Okay, so Python classes and objects, a brief introduction of these two things I have given, and I have told you the significance of init and self parameters, right? Init is the function which is used for initialization of the objects. The moment of you create the object, you can give the values to them by default values. And then self is something which is actually refers to the object's own properties, object's own attributes, parameters. Okay, let's go ahead. Like I said, it's a very simple thing. You don't need to be worried, right? See, the self parameter, you actually do not need to make it self all the time. You can write any name, right? See, so because it is always identified by the place it is written, right? So like point two, if you look at the point, point two, this part, it doesn't have to be named self. This time I have named something weird, right? You can call it whatever you like, but it has to be the first. This is, you should remember, right? So this is always self-referencing object. And then whatever variables you want to give, it's okay. And then self.name, my silly object.name, my silly object.age, you want to give, use the function, it's all good, right? There is one additional information which you may want to proofread. You want to work with that. You can modify properties on objects like this, right? How? So if you want to change the property, right? So you can do that. Maybe p1 age is equals to 40. Object p1 Qasim is 36. You may want to change it. Delete an object. You can delete an object. So maybe I'll give you 1 more minute. Switch to inheritance, which is going to exploit all the things which you have studied, up till now. Because inheritance is classes over classes, right? So you're going to learn about that. Before that, I'm giving you this screen, and then maybe you can you can test this experiment, p1.age, modifying the object's characteristics and trying to delete an object by creating. You just verify. Just in 1 minute we will proceed. Or maybe Tivia, maybe we should take 15 minutes break because it is almost 11.
Noted, sir. We can take a 15 minutes break.
Huh?
Oh, we can take a 15 minutes break now.
All right. So let's meet up at after 15 minutes. I'll grab a coffee and then come back in 15 minutes. See you. All right. So from these two slides, you can get a very clear idea of that how the Python classes and objects works. Let's make it even a little bigger by introducing the inheritance concept. The concept of inheritance, I'll just read. You must be knowing it already from other programming languages if you have used any object-oriented programming. But just just refreshing your concept. So inheritance, you understand it is basically okay. Maybe I have a question. I mean, Satul, maybe you should share the screenshot of the source code because it doesn't seem there is any error with this part only. P1 is equals to person Qasim, comma 36 is okay, but I have to see the source code. What's the problem you have made in your object creation or something right there? So maybe if you share the screenshot of the source code, maybe I would be able to comment. And what is the error also? You should show me what is the error it is showing. I guess there is a problem in your init function. You haven't defined your init function. Your object it is saying that object takes no parameters, means your class doesn't have any variable. If you look at my example here I have mentioned class person, and then I have mentioned name and age, which is actually taking the input, and these are the input arguments. These two are my input arguments which I'm trying to print here. Just show me the screenshot of your source code. Okay, just let me check what you have done. Init, you should see there is a spelling mistake in your init. INTI, you have mentioned it should be INIT. Yeah, INTI should be changed to INIT. Yeah, correct. Okay, go ahead. So, so here I was saying we are going to study. We're going to learn about inheritance. Inheritance is basically, it's okay. It's okay, Amizabur. So it's inheritance is basically, inheriting or borrowing or copying the characteristics of the parent class, right? So yeah, real life inherit. We copy the characteristics from our parents. somebody looks like parent, like father, somebody looks like their mother, somebody has the chin or nose like their father, and mother is like that, right? So this is the real life concept. Okay, so here we have inheritance and object oriented programming. We are going to start with that. Look at that first part. First of all, like we have created the classes, right? So it's pretty straightforward. If you look at this first example, there's a class is created named as class staff, right? And then I have mentioned like other parameters, print name, and then this is the member function, and I have used it. So this one is a simple class. Now, what I want these first name and last name attributes, characteristics to be copied to my child class, right? So how I should, first of all, we should be knowing that how we create the child class. It's, you won't believe that how pretty straightforward it is. You just create a class like any other class, give the name of the child class, and from which class you want to borrow, right? So see, this is the whole class called staff I have, and then here I'm writing to my new child class as an input. So the whole characteristics, it's very straightforward, very easy. Class, new class name, and the parent class name. That's pretty straightforward. And then for just your reference, I am not doing anything in the child class. I'm just showing that how to create the class name, right? The child class. And then I'm using pass means I'm creating an empty class which is not doing anything, right? Which is simply just developing the concept of an inheritance. So the whole, this class, this one is parent, right? This one is parent, and this becomes the child. How it becomes? By using this part, right? This is simple. Now if you create an object X with child class, see, faculty is the child class of the parent class's staff. So if I assume myself at this place, I am a staff, right? So for example, if I'm working in a university, so generally I'm a staff. And then if I ask my special characteristics, so basically in the staff category, I am a faculty, right? So faculty and then staff, right? So this staff characteristics are copied into faculty. And if I have some more characteristics, I would be like to add it later. But then general characteristics, which I want, commonly share from my parent class staff is this, right? My name and my last name, my first name, right? So here I have created the object X is equals to faculty Farhat Khan. So this is going to be my, Farhat is going to be my first name, Khan is going to be my last name, and X dot print name. This function, if you look at this function,
Excuse, sir.
this is again,
Sir, we can't see your slide.
Right? Oh, okay. Just give me a minute. Maybe it's a connection problem. So what we missed basically everything. Okay, let's begin with this thing. Okay, like I said, the creation of the class is pretty straightforward, right? This is how we are actually creating the class, the whole class. The previous session, the previous slides we have already studied, right? I have created a class name as staff, and then there are some first name and last name variables are there, and then there is a member function. So this is the information member function we have, and then I have created an object. So this is a simple class. This is my parent class, going to be my parent class, right? Now with the help of this parent class, I'm going to create a child class. For creation of child class, it's really very straightforward. You look at this part. This is class faculty, and then it is inherited from the staff, right? So this whole class, right? I should delete it, this eraser. So you look at that part. This is my class from which I want to inherit. So what I should write? Class, new class name, child class name, and from which class it is going to inherit. So this staff characteristics will be copied to new class faculty through mentioning the child class, the parent class here, the parent class names here, right? So this is very straightforward. Class, new class name, and from the child, from the parent class, which it has to be borrowing the characteristics. And right now, because I'm not interested in adding so much properties in my child class, just the purpose of showing the demonstration of how to implement inheritance, right? So here I have created the inheritance. Now I'm going to test whether it is working or not. See, I have created the object x is equals to faculty, and this characteristics, if it is appropriately inherited, the first name and last name measurements or the variables or the values will be inherited. And if I supply first name and last name as two string sequences, it should be doing that, right? So let's do that. Let's do that and try to develop that. Here, now I'm going to create a new Python file, which is going to be inheritance, right? So what should I write? First of all, I should create class staff, and then def double underscore init self, and then comma f name comma l name. And what this thing is going to do, self dot first name is my local variable which will be taken by the input argument, and then self dot last name is equals to l name, right? So this is how it is. See, simple class is created. Now if I create a function def show info, or maybe I should change this to make it more appropriate. Show name, right? This is not going to take any input. It is simply printing the name is here. What should I write? Self dot first name comma self dot last name. See, this is pretty straightforward, right? So this is my class is created. Okay, now I want to inherit. For inheritance, like I said, I need to create a separate class. For example, I'm going to create a class faculty, and then in the faculty, I don't need anything, right? Anything right now. Just want to inherit. So for inheritance, I need to mention from which class it is going to inherit, right? And in the next line, I'm just using pass. Pass means empty class, like I said already, right? So now in the next line, I'm going to create an object. So I should create F1 faculty is equals to, I should give name Farhat, my first name, and then Khan is my second name, right? So what I can do, I can access my member function show name, anything, you know. I mean, if you see, it's pretty straightforward, very simple, very smooth. I have created a base class, I have created a child class. By giving input to my child class constructor, I'm saying that it is borrowing the characteristics from that, and then there is no nitty-gritty, no technical part in that. Right now, empty class, just inheriting the characteristics from the parent, and then I have created an object by giving the new child class on constructor Farhat and Khan. If it is appropriate, it is good. Means see, this is all empty. If these two first name and last name are going to work just because of its parent class, right? Let's test it. Sorry, I have to run this code every time a new file is run. So first of all, first time you have to run the new line. So the name is Farhat Khan. It's very simple, straightforward. Just do it in few seconds. Copy me, and then we may proceed to the next part of it. We will be adding some functions, some variables to our new child class. See, what's the purpose of inheritance? The purpose of inheritance means there are some common characteristics which you want to follow, right? So if I have created staff, staff could be many categories. The staff could be academic, like teaching staff, faculty. Staff could be clerical staff. Staff could be management category. So there are lots of categories of the staff. So for instance, I have created, faculty staff inherited from staff main class, and then faculties could have different piece of information. For example, if I ask for academic department faculties, what is your department? This could be a unique information. But if somebody is from clerical staff, we won't say that he belongs to a department of engineering or computer science or mechanical or somewhere, right? So this is how we are going to customize our child class according to the need. So child class could have its own new characteristics. So we would be adding up those information later in this demo and in this slide. So just make sure that you are with me at this page at least. Simple inheritance with empty child class is created at least. Make sure. We will be slowing down because these things need to write you several lines of code, and that's why I will give you sufficient time so that you should be on the same page with me, right? Just make sure that everyone, or as much as possible, students should be running and proving the concept, running and working. Okay, so I'm proceeding with the next thing, right? So if you look at that, this part is done, right? So we already have class staff. With the help of class staff, I have created a new subclass, child class, which I call faculty. Now, going to add, this time I'm not going to use pass, no empty child class. I'm going to add some values to that. So if you look at that, the first part here, focus on this bracket, this shaded portion. The rest of the things the same. There's nothing different, right? What I have done, I have added the init function of the child class, right? So which means the constructor, the initializer of the child class faculty is now there. So now the moment you create, just listen carefully this thing, right? The moment you create init function of a child class, it overtakes the control from the parent class to the child class, which means the moment you define a child init class, it is going to work locally within the faculty class. Now it is not going to take the properties from the init of the staff, right? So this is we call overriding. The moment init function of child class is created, the faculty child class is now overriding the superclass. So whatever your child class, parent class, the characteristics are there, they are going to be overridden. Means the control is now within init function of the child class, right? So here, what I did basically, diff init self f name l name, it is same as it is, right? And now, if I create an, if you want to keep the characteristics from the parent class also, what you can do, you just mention the class name and then init function like I have mentioned here. These two lines, you should be focusing on these two lines. This one and this one, right? These two. So this one is the local init, which means it is going to override. So there is no control of the child class in faculty child class, right? There's no, I mean, parental interference actually, right? Now, see, if you want, no, I want my parental characteristics to be there other than the characters which I have. So you can do that by mentioning just the init function of the staff by staff.image, right? So here, see, by running this code, it is not going to show you any difference. But the next example which I will show you is going to show you the difference, right? So the same thing here, instead of pass, now I'm going to create my own init, right? And then self f name comma l name, right? And what else do I have? F name, l name, and yeah, I want to copy the staff dot init function. Why it hasn't taken this same thing? Self f name, I think. Yeah. Okay. I think it is okay. And anything else? Rest of the things are same. F1 dot show name, right? So let's try this. Maybe it could create some problem, but let's see. Yeah, it's giving the problem because I haven't mentioned the whole, definition of it. So f name and then comma l name. Yeah, it should work. Yeah. So I was just checking whether if I mention these parental characteristics or not, right? So yeah, it is there. Okay. If I give the name one, name two, just check whether it is following this or not, right? It is giving the problem, right? Unresolved references. So it is giving the problem, right? So see, f name, l name is not actually copied because you wanted this to be copied here. So you have to mention this as it is, right? F name and l name. These are the characteristics. See, by writing this statement, you are saying that whatever characteristics I have in my parent class should be inherited, as well as I'm going to have my own characteristics apart from my parent characteristics, right? So this is how it is. And if I run this, it successfully runs this part, right? And the same thing can be done by, see, you always do not need to remember what is your child class, sorry, parent class, sorry, yeah. You actually do not need to remember always your parent class. So for that, you can do this by this. Super. So instead of putting the explicit class name from which the class is inherited, yeah, this means explicitly writing the parent class name is not necessary. You do not need to remember who is the parent of this child class. You simply put it super, whatever is the parent class, the characteristics will be resolved, characteristics will be inherited. Let's try this. What happened? Okay. Okay, super is basically is like that. It's a function basically. Okay, so yeah, so super keyword here, this super keyword is going to make sure that it should follow all the characteristics from the parent class. This is simple, right? And then let's move to right now what we did basically. We have created a class, we have created a child class, we have some characteristics we wanted to be inherited in our own child class using init function, and this we have made sure with the super or explicitly mentioning the class name. Now let's move forward. Let's add some variables, additional variables and characteristics to my child class. Look at this example on the right side. Here I have this class faculty, def init, f name, l name. See, notice this part. Now I'm going to add the department, right? So super is going to make sure that I should follow f name and l name from parent class, but department is something new to that, right? So how I can do that? Here in this init function of my local, I'm going to put dept, and then in this part self means child classes object is going to have one more variable which will be set by the value you set as a department. And then here in this part I put CSE, right? CSE. So this value which I will give will be used to initialize faculty class, first name, last name, department, F name, L name, DEPT. And this DEPT is basically copied to the department. So my child class has already F name and L name from the parent class. Now it has its own characteristics, which is department, which will be added like that. So it's pretty straightforward, simple. I will give you some minutes after running this demo. Right, so I should save it. Name. Okay, so here I guess I can one dot department. Let's see if this works or not. Yeah. Oh, sorry, because the object is just created, I can't use it. I should have to explicitly use it first. And so maybe I would like to do that like this. Yes. This is okay. So yeah, just need to summarize so that you should not confuse with that. So now F1 is the object which I have created with the new child class faculty, and now child class has F name, L name from the parent, and department is from it itself, from the child class itself. So DEPT is going to be stored here, right? F name, L name will be inherited from that. Okay, so now self.department is equals to DEPT. So whatever values I'm supplying here, for example, CSE, CFC will come here, and this CSE will be set as the local variable of the faculty here, right? Now, if f1.show name I'm using, this is the child, sorry, this is the parent class function. See, this is defined in parent class. So this parent class is going to work with that. And then if I need to show the additional property of this new department which has been added to this child class, I should explicitly write. I will make more modifications, just make it, to workable. See, the name is Farhad Khan, CAC, or maybe if you want to make it more convenient, you can say that it should be written like that. Department CAC. So this is how it is. The name is Farhad Khan, Department CAC, right? So let's make some local function. Add the local function. I don't want this function anymore here, right? I want this function to work here in my here. So maybe you can say the function name is welcome. So welcome function doesn't take anything. Simply it is the name. It's a simple message, right? Welcome, Mr. XYZ. Comma self dot department, right? So now I'm going to delete all of these useless things. See, I'm just making sure. So what I actually did, I have this function which has two variables. Now I have no more extra function or something in my parent class, superclass. I have created a new function in child class which is going to print all the characteristics which is inherited as well as its own characteristics, right? So what I'm trying to do here, welcome Mr. first name, last name from department, like that, and self.department value, right? So for this, I'm going to simply call this function like this, right? Simple call, very simple. Now look at this. Welcome Mr. Farhad Khan from department CSE. So I have welcomed myself, right? So you can do the proof of this concept. You can try it in 1 or 2 minutes. Anything you don't understand, anything is confusion, just let me know. I'll just explain this to you. We still have things to cover soon after this inheritance. Because what I expect today, that I should at least bring you to the level that you could bridge from here onwards to the level 2 of the Python learning. Like I said, I will explain inheritance, and then thereafter, just after this, I'm going to tell you how to handle the file handling operation. And then similarly, I will tell you one more important thing, which is very common, is JSON. JSON is basically JavaScript supported file handling, right? So I will bring you to that level. Yeah. For your convenience, I just have increased the font size. So shall we move forward? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, let's go. Okay, so that was a very simple example of inheritance. So you see if the demonstration, right? Yeah. So here I have this class staff, I have this class faculty, this whole class characteristics is copied here, and then it has its own function, right? This has own function, and I have used this function, right? So this is how it is simple. The output of this is here. Now we're going to start the file handling. Yeah. Anything else in any question in this inheritance? I think it is straight, right? Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so file handling, right? File handling, you already understand. This has been literally, very difficult while learning the file handling level of programming, because most of the courses which we have studied during our graduation could not reach to the file handling chapter, or it is just like, because it is so much of the syllabus, and people have already skipped it, that okay, we'll teach it later, maybe you will learn it better somewhere else, like that. So here, in Python, this again is really very interesting, how it is actually make the file handling convenient to you. That's why it is a good high level language, and that's why I'm so much fan of file handling, the way the Python, because the way it gives you privilege to write productive code in very simple English like sentences. So it makes you very productive and very skilled with fewer instructions, right? So let's just talk about file handling. There is one very key function, very important function, which is open, right? The key function for working with files in Python is the open function. This is one function. There are more such operations, but the open is basically something which opens the file for various operations. You can see the colored options, right? R, A, W, X. So if you want to open a file in read mode, you will say it read R, and you will see the example. The first example you see, F is equals to open demo file.txt R, right? Print f dot read. So this f dot read is function which is associated with the file object. File object is the result of open this in read mode. So anything you can read in the demo file.txt with the help of this example. And there are other options also. So this is only read only. If you want to add something to your file, you will use append. If you want to write means it is whatever has been written in the existing file, it is going to be overwritten, fresh write. So that's how it is write. If you want to create file for the first time, you can use X, right? So these are 4 switches, attributes associated with open function. And then there are few more switches you should be focusing, right? How your file mode should be. Generally, we handle the file in text mode, in binary mode, right? So binary mode means if you want to read from images, you want to read from raw video files, they are all binary files, okay? So if you want to read from binary files, you will write R. If you want to read, you will write RB. B means reading from a binary file. So you will associate these together, RB, right? And then if you want to create, right? So you will say XB. If you want to create text file, you will say XT, like that, right? So these are very basic switches with which you can handle file. So let's begin with this first demonstration. For that, I have to create a demo file.txt. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay. So here I'm going to add a new chapter. I'm going to say that file handling, right? So this is going to be my file handling. Before writing any code, I'm going to add new file. You look at that. Here, I'm going to create a simple text file, right? Scratch means you can see lots of options are there. I just need to look plain text. Yeah, plain text. Okay, so you already see scratch.txt. Oh no, I shouldn't create the scratch. I should create a simple txt. Just wait. Yeah, here, new file. Maybe what is the name I have given here? Demo file.txt. Demo file.txt. Okay, so this is how it is. This is the demo file for file handling demo. This is this second line of the demo file.txt. So this is a simple file I have created locally. You see, this exists locally, right? Now I will switch back. You write anything in this file, no problem, right? It's a simple text file. So now I'm going back to file handling, and then look at this instruction. F is equals to open file name comma R, right? So F is equals to open my file name. What is my file name? Demo file.txt, comma, what's the mode, right? What's the mode? Which mode you want to? I want to read mode, right? And then simple f dot read, simple. Do you see anything else? Print f dot read. Sorry, print, because without that it is simply going to read and not printing. So look at that, how simple it is. You know, f is the object file, open demo file.txt, r print f.read. Simple. Let's run it. Here, where's the file? File handling. I have to run it for the first time. This is the demo file for file handling demo. This is the second line of demo file.txt. See, this two line of instruction, no scratch file. Okay, Nilab, no scratch file. You just simply create, txt file. Look at that in the screen. I'm showing you. Create new here file. First option, right? And give name xyz.txt, right? Simple. Give this name, right? Any file name you want to give. Okay. So do you see that how simple it is? Just two line of instruction and you are able to handle your file. So this is read, and if you want to, you can try with other options also. If this file is belonging to somewhere else, you have to give the entire path. You just check that. So if your file is kept somewhere else, you can see that, right? And then if you want to read it line by line, you can do that. Okay? There is one thing, read line, and because I have two lines, maybe I would like to print it for twice, maybe, right? So if I run this code, let's see what happens, right? See, this is the demo file for file handling. This is the second line of demo file, right? If you, for example, if you want to read it like, in the loop, you can also do that. See, for x in f, print x, right? So let's do that. For x in f, f means my file object, and then simply read or print, sorry, x. Anything else? Yeah, no. Okay, so if you run it, you just see it. See, this is the same file. So this makes your life really very easy. And never forget to close your files. It is very important, because this is garbage collection mechanism. Sorry, f dot close is mandatory. Mandatory, yeah. Why it is mandatory? Because the moment you create a file, yeah, this object is rest in the memory. If you don't close it, your file is still there, so it is going to use lots of memory space. So better you should always have the practice of open and close. Remember this thing, right? Open and close. If you open a file, close it. Okay, so that was very simple, and then there are switches with which you can experiment, right? So that's how I'm leaving these things up to you. If you want to open, maybe I can show you open. Open is a very good thing. Yeah. So I'm going to change the mode of the file to A. File f dot write. I hope everything goes well. And then again, print f dot read. Even several options not readable. Okay, sorry. That's the problem. Okay, because I have to, once again, I have to do this thing. I have to open it in the read mode, because right now the file is open in open mode, right? So I have to do this thing. Do you see that how these things are? So what I did basically, let's first test it. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so first I have opened the file in opened mode. If the file is already existing, I want to add something new. So f.write is going to add it with the help of append mode, and then I'm closing the file. Again, if I need to read the file, I have to open it again, because previously it was open on appended mode. It means it is write mode on. You can't read while writing it. So that's how first I have closed the file. Again, I have opened the file in read mode, and then that's how I'm able to read it, right? So you see, this is the demo file for file handling demo. This is the second line of the demo file .txt. This is new line appended. This is new line appended because I have run this program already twice, right? Okay, so maybe instead of write, I should write lines, right? So maybe this is the last line appended. Maybe it's going to work this time smooth. This is the last line appended, right? This is how it is. Maybe instead of this, I should line by line. You can do lots of experiments, so I'm just leaving it up to you. First line, put this in loop. If you want this to be for lines in F, right? And then you can write like this. See, f dot read lines for lines. See, this is the second line. This is the new line. This is the last line. This is the last line. This is how it is. Okay, so there are lots of experiments you can perform. You can look for the references. The next thing which we are going to study with that. Okay, there's one more thing. you can delete a file, and you can, these are two important operations which actually I wanted you to understand, right? If you want to delete a file, you have to import OS library, right? So there's something new which I'm introducing in this slide. Import OS. Import is basically I'm going to import a library, an external library, which is not okay. Is it the same if I want to read docx? No, Farzana, it's not same. It's normally handled with txt files, right? Txt or binary only, right? So if it is txt, you can say that RT, like if you want to read a text file, RT or simply R by default, right? If you want to read from a binary file, right? Binary file means like, if you create a binary file, uh, what example I could give you, like VLC streaming files are binary. So maybe later we can discuss it. Anyway, so here, what I'm saying that import OS is the library which is actually involving lots of operating system operation. So if you want to delete a file, it is not a file operation, it is operating system operation. But because it is applied on files, that's why I'm discussing it. I mean, just for the sake of completion, right? So import os.remove demo file.txt file will be removed, right? So if you want to check whether this file is, sometimes we write Python scripts which actually we want to check whether this file exists. If it exists, maybe we want to open it, maybe we want to delete it, like that, right? So some automation script using Python we can write. Okay, so this second operation, the second block, you see, import OS with os.path.exist demo file.txt. If it exists, os.remove demo file.txt, else the file doesn't exist. So maybe I should try the second example so that it should make you understand both operations, remove and file existing also. So what I should do here, maybe I should write a new file, right? A new file first of all, to is a simple demo txt which I want to delete first of all, right? I'm writing lots of text in that, right? So does it make any sense? So I'm saving it. Right now I'm going to create a new Python file, right? And going to show you remove file.python, right? .py. So what I should do, first of all, I should import OS, right? And then I want to check whether this file exists or not, right? So what I should write, if OS, sorry, if OS dot path dot exist, give the file name. What file I have created? Demo dot, as I should enclose it in the bracket, right? It is already going to take demo.txt, right? So if condition is there, I want to do something. Yeah, maybe I want to simple first, want to say something. Yes, the file I found and going to delete, right? This is a simple message, and then os dot remove, this file was your demo.txt, right? And then otherwise shift tab, you can say that else print. Unfortunately, the file doesn't exist. Right? So this is what I need to write, right? It was, yeah, okay. So maybe I should give a wrong name first of all, demo1.txt, the wrong name, and then let's see what it does. Oh, sorry, I have to run this code again. Run remove file. Oh, no, 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 no. It's not good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I shouldn't do that. Okay, demo.txt. Where's the demo? Right. So I should give a wrong name here so that it should come in else condition. This file exists, right? Let's see what it does. Unfortunately, the file doesn't exist, right? So this is before deleting. I wanted to show you that how it goes, right? If I want to delete it, I will give this name, right? Okay. Unfortunately, yes, the file I found and going to delete. Do you see it is gone from here? Look at this carefully. Again, again, again. I should create this file and delete it. This is interesting, right? Destruction is always very interesting. Demo.txt. Right, this is how it is. I have the files I have. Okay, and then I'm saving it. I'm closing it. This, be careful here. Looking at this screen, demo.txt. If I run, where the file goes, gone, right? Yes, the file on deleted and gone. So this was the interesting part. Okay, maybe you can create and delete some raw files like that, not something useful. Please be careful with this destructive tool. Okay, and then I will give you something to the level next. It's a very simple thing, not really very extraordinary, but like I said, it's JSON, Python JSON I'm going to explain. So, but before that, you should experiment and just assure that you are learning it, and we have already, made some progress in that, and then we could finalize it. I'm going to dedicate for another 10-20 minutes for your questionnaires. If you have questions related to anything, anywhere in your project and in your this Python programming or any and maybe the next level of teaching, what it is going to be in level 2, depending on that. So maybe we can discuss with the organizers also. Anyway, so do that demo and let's move to the next level. Next slide. Done. Shall we proceed? Okay. So yeah, this is we're going to talk about some new level, next level. This is we call JSON. JSON is just like XML file, right? XML file is basically semi-structured data files, and JSON is also the same, but it is supported with JavaScript object notation. So, if you have seen so many web applications running with that, they actually run the JSON data in the backend, right? They have used tables, they have used lots of such information. So everything is already they have stored in JSON, right? So how does a JSON file looks like? If you see, for using the JSON, I have another API library, import JSON, right? Import JSON, and then X is equals to C. It is just like key value pair, but in this format, right? x is equals to single quotes. It is enclosed in curly braces. This is key value. This is key value. This is key value. This is how JSON data is written. So if you want this x to be loaded as JSON, right? Y is equals to this a function JSON dot loads. This is all JSON supported functions, right? Right. So JSON dot loads and then print y age. Y is basically in Python style, right? JSON dot loads x parse translate the JSON file into Python variable, and then you can simply print as a list. Print y age. If you give the age will be here like that, and then give the city like that. So this is very pretty straightforward, just to add on your knowledge and to give you some bonus learning in this tutorial. I have added this part also, and from this onwards, if we will join the next level tutorial, we will be moving forward, and then like that. See this, yeah. So this is one side of the story, from JSON to Python, and the same way Python to JSON, right? You have a you see is a kind of key value structure. It's not actually a dictionary, not key value particularly, because I haven't mentioned anything that. So x is equals to here this curly braces, name Farhad, age this, city this, like that, right? If you want this again, instead of loads, right? Instead of loads, you have dumps, right? So what it is going to dump? It is going to make one JSON object with the help of JSON.dumps, taking the input from Python X. This is Python X coming here. This output is your JSON. This is your JSON, and print Y is your JSON, right? So this is how it is. So you can, without giving so much of, maybe I should write this experiment to show you right there, so that you should have this takeaway with you. New Python file, JSON demo, right? So in import JSON, yeah, right? So yeah, import JSON, and then I'm just copying the same code. Some JSON data, and JSON data, what is that? X is equals to single quotes and braces, and then collection of strings, I guess, right? Yeah. Name Farhad. Okay, so I guess this is sufficient for now. And then if I want to, parse Python data into JSON object, right? So how I'm going to create a Y, which is basically JSON dot loads, right? This is the loads, and what variable it is going to do, yeah. And then if I want to print something from JSON, I should write print Y. Maybe I'm interested in the city, right? Anything else? No, that's cool. Yeah, so the same file is running JSON demo. See, the city is Penang, right? Print the city is Penang, right? And then vice versa, You can do the reverse also, right? So you have import JSON, a Python object, right? You can this Python object is like that, right? So maybe I will leave up to you. You just look at this example. You can try on your editor. Other than this, see, there are some additional information which I have mentioned here. You can convert Python object of the following types into JSON strings. So anything which you have dictionary, list, tuple string, empty float, true, false, none, everything you can convert into JSON objects. And similarly, there are lots of, you know, Python objects of the following into JSON and from Python to JSON also, right? This is what. So just giving you a hint of, you know, a next level, mediocre level, medium level of coding and some data storage and some web scripting, you know, familiarity, because this is the data structure normally web applications store. Like I said, if you see any table, if you see any information written in structured format in any web page, right? So if you look at this code, you will find there is a JSON for that, right? The simple text file, lightweight, semi-structured data file, which actually holds the web application's data, right? So I'm winding up at this point of time, and we are done for today's session. Now I'm open for questionnaire for any sort of. You may type your question, you may raise, you can voice up your question, no problem. Okay, one more thing I would like to speak about on the behalf of Divya and team, that the next level 2 things will be basically based on something, you know, giving you a serious direction of project writing. Like if you want to use NumPy, you want to use OpenCV, you want to use scikit-learn, which is basically what do we call it? Scikit-learn is scientific kit, right? It is machine learning API. There are lots of machine learning operations are there which you can learn. And similarly, pandas is there, OpenCV, like I said, and then if you want to read data from CSV file, so these kind of things which we would be learning in medium level of Python programming. Okay, the question is, Muhammad Haskul, is it Python can import C? If you want to run the C program, no, it's not like that. You can't run, you know, C import C and you run. I mean, not like import C and then write like that, because C is not a package, right? C is not a library. C itself is whole framework of programming. But of course, there are ways with which you can partially run the C code with the help of your Python, right? So there are procedures with which you can run partial script from C with the help of Python and then doing the other operations. So this is a common thing. This is a common thing many programmers want to do. They have some script running on C and they want to take the input from there and then running with the help of Python and then coming back following the rest of the program. Yeah, you can do, but you can't import C. Okay, thank you, Mona. Can we use implement OpenCV in Raspberry? Yeah, of course, you can do. You know, if there is a Python, if there is a Python running on your Raspberry, you can do all sort of operations which is supported by Python. And OpenCV is very handy with Python. In fact, I'm using it already. Maybe I could show you something. Not exactly the Raspberry, but see, I run lots of, you know, deep learning APIs with which I do I should show you. See, look at that. Input CV2, right? You see that? Yeah, this part, OpenCV, right? There are lots of APIs which I use basically for my code, but I just want to show you that, OpenCV I use, yeah. So you can learn lots of things with that. See here, this part. I'm reading the image from CV2. CV2 is basically representing, OpenCV. IM read is the operation, right? Okay, Amirul, that's good to hear. Just to acknowledge you, I'm working on predictive model using Python for my FYP. That's nice. That's really great. It is a good direction. If you ask for any help, yeah, of course I would like to help you. Okay. More questions? Okay, Daniel, how to apply and use source code like already made in GitHub, for instance, to use it in IoT gadget. Okay, if you have the library, dependencies, first of all, you should make your, whatever IoT gadget you're using it should have the at least Python framework, right? Python framework means you do not need to install the ID or anything, just Python support, right? Python 2.7, Python 3.6, so that if you are running the Python applications, it should help you. Like it is just a framework. The first thing is that, and then if you want to use a GitHub source, just simply download it, right? So for example, if I can show you some repository if I have already. For example, yeah, I have this API, for example, right? So no, this is not the API, this is the help. Maybe I should look for something else. Okay, so maybe I should look for, yeah. For example, this I should show you one API which I have, So that's how Daniel, which IoT gadget is basically just simply installing the Python, making your framework ready and ready. Execute the program using the keyboard and terminal. You can do that, right? So I was just showing you this API basically. If you want to run it, you see this is basically on GitHub, right? It is on Jupyter Notebook also, Google Colab also. So this is how it is, right? You can from the GitHub you copy the entire code and test it on your machine, right? Local machine, and if it works, just displace it there. Maybe this is what I'm saying. Maybe depending on the inputs from the student, we can decide that what kind of APIs and what kind of project guidance and help can be done in level 2 or 3, right? Okay, Khairul has a question. In the Python class and objects in self parameter, what does the p1 my function dot do? Okay, so p1 dot my function. Okay, welcome Daniel. In the Python class and object in self parameter, what does the p1 my function? It is, my function is a simple function, right? It's the purpose of showing this function is just to show that actually it is working with the object. It is the attribute, characteristics, behavior of the function which I'm calling with the help of the object. Yeah. This one, right? So p1 dot my function is basically two objects. Yeah, two objects are there. P1 is equal to representing the object for the class person with values Qasim and 36, and P2 is representing a person object with values Brian and 30. So this my function, the function which is defined in the class person, His job is to display the names which is actually given as an input. So P1, my function is giving the value which is set as Qasim and 36. P2 is same class, different object with value Brian and 30. So there are two different objects running from one class person. So P1 and P2 are representing different class, and by putting dot, my function name means whatever the value of the name is there for particular object, it is going to display the value. That's it. Anything else? So maybe you should contact with Divya that what should be the direction of the next workshop, next level workshop. What should you be learning? What you should be actually focusing on the basis of this we can decide the curriculum to help you with your FYP, with your high level studies, with your help with other such things. Yeah, Divya.
Actually, we will share the evaluation form after the workshop. The student can
Yeah.
evaluate over there what they want to learn for the next workshop.
Yeah, of course. Majority of the people will, I mean, depending on the majority of the people's answer, we will decide the curriculum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So since we are ending our workshop, I wanna take this moment to thank our speaker, Mr. Fahad Khan, to be agreed to be part of this workshop, and thanks to all our participants as well. Last but not least, to my STEM club, the team, Ranjita, Noor, Ashima, and Azwan, to make this workshop happen in a short period of time. And before we ending the workshop, I would like to make a small request. All the participants, please open the camera for a while. We want to take a small photo, group photo shot.
Me also.
Open the camera for a while. You want to take the group photo shot. Sir, you need to stop presenting the slide so I can fix everyone.
Yeah, I should stop sharing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I should clear my classes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good to see you, everyone.
Ranjita, take picture.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Take care. Be safe. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yeah.